So in this segment, we're going to be talking about UK Minister says UK changes to EU financial rules will not be a big bang. So it won't be mass deregulation like Brexiters have demanded. Now, this article is old, I'm not going to lie. It's from the 2nd of March. There's not been anything more recent from what I've seen. A video recorded on the 21st. So this is one I've wanted to cover for a while, but I just never got round to it for whatever reason. But overhauling the EU's financial rulebook post-Brexit will not be a big bang moment and could take several years, according to the UK City Minister, John Glenn. And what's interesting is that the EU are also looking at changes to their financial systems. I think they're looking at Solvency II, which is something the UK are also looking at. So isn't it ironic that even in the EU we could have reformed such rules? Glenn told Westminster's Treasury Select Committee that the push to reform EU regulations will be an iterative process, that any intervention will not overnight change the competitiveness of the financial services in the UK. So essentially, what we've seen from Brexit is that it's made it harder for businesses to operate inside UK-based businesses to operate inside the EU. Some have been given kind of special passes because they can still use UK clearinghouses, but predominantly the UK is not seen right now as the premier place to do stock trading as it was before, and that they're struggling to do deregulation in terms of making the city more competitive against Singapore and other kind of far off countries that have lower standards than us, which is kind of the goal at the moment, to compete with Singapore rather than with New York or with any European financial capitals like Paris. The Treasury will this year bring forward a swath of changes to the EU's financial services rulebook in a bid to enhance the competitiveness post-Brexit. So they are looking at deregulation, but given what they've spoken about, I don't know how much of an impact this will have, especially if you're an existing firm looking to stay in the UK or a new firm looking, where should we set up shop? New York, Amsterdam, Paris, London, etc. Sunak last year told City AM that this could lead to a Big Bang 2.0 in reference to the 1980s deregulation of the sector, which led to a period of immense growth in the City of London. Now, I've read about this in other things, like I wasn't around back then, and I don't know what exactly caused this quote Big Bang of growth in the City of London, but from what I've read under the major government, when they promised massive deregulation, nothing really happened. So I would wait to see in terms of the deregulation impact. And also, some of these firms aren't a big fan of deregulation because, again, it pushes people to go to their based instincts and do risky capitalist casino bets and cause their firms to go bankrupt, which in turn does sometimes lead to state bailouts, which is sad, isn't it, that we have to bail these people out for their bad bets. Last month, it was confirmed that it would ease Solvency II, a directive that makes insurance firms hold a certain amount of capital to ensure they could survive potential economic shocks. Because, again, I've asked this question to the audience before, and I'll ask you again. What happens when an insurance company doesn't have the money to pay out to deal with, bad bets that happen? Is that the taxpayer will have to step in? Will they just allow these companies to go bankrupt? That's the key questions, really. Those are the key questions. The Treasury also began to change the UK's listing rules late last year in a bid to attract more companies to list on the London Stock Exchange. Glenn said these kind of changes could be done fairly quickly post-Brexit, but countries, I'm assuming, right, I could be wrong, have their own rules to allow who goes on the stock exchange and who doesn't. So is this really a Brexit win here? I don't think so. But the complete regulatory overhaul will take some time. Of course it will, because you're trying to take away things where we have, in certain areas, we have more excessive rules than EU countries. And in some cases we have less excessive rules than other EU countries. It just depends. It was up to member states. The EU sets out directives and it's up to the member state how to implement them. He refused to set a date on it under questioning from MPs, but indicated that it could take several years. And, when Brexiteers talk about the immediate benefits and all these things, right, that's simply not going to happen. The EU will be fairly happy with this, I believe, because they've set a deadline of 2025 until EU kind of banks don't have access to London clearinghouses anymore. So the EU will be happy the longer this deregulation takes, because they want to take as much business out of London as possible, not to stick it to us, but because they want oversight over those deals so we don't have more financial problems like we've had in the past. It will be a prioritization based on. Oh, sorry, I missed a bit. We're not doing that in a single big bang moment. This will be This will be a piece of work that will happen over time. He said, which is the smart way to do this, but it won't give you those kind of political wins the government are really looking for. And so I don't know what will happen. Maybe they'll sack him and get someone else in, or maybe this is the man to say, well, Sunak's full of rubbish, because there won't be a Big Bang 2.0. It will be a prioritization on a prioritization basis, which makes sense, based on a conversation with the Prudential Regulatory Authority and the Financial Conduct Authority. Those are the two regulatory bodies that have oversight over financial dealings. We're really giving responsibility to the FCA and PRA to set those rules, to right size them for the UK in conversation with and consultation with the industry. So I'm not the biggest fan of regulators talking to industry to see where we can make their lives easier, because this is where they can do some tricky nonsense and say, I wouldn't get rid of these rules because they're annoying, when they're not. It just stops firms making risky bets. The Treasury push away from EU financial services regulations comes after the UK lost this unfettered access to EU financial markets post-Brexit. So that in green is the key there, that because the EU didn't give us equivalency, which they're absolutely in their right not to do, it's up to them. This is where Sunak's pivot to deregulation really happened. Brussels could have let the UK keep its previous status through a designation called equivalence. However, EU chiefs have decided against it, as they believe Britain will diverge from its financial services regulations in the future. And we've already seen that with food in a way, because we're going to be importing a lot of beef from Australia. And I don't know the specifics of the deal, but if it does allow hormone-treated beef to allow into the UK, then we've deregulated on the sly. And the simple fact is, can the UK be trusted when it comes to equivalency? No, that's why the EU looked to alignment, because alignment means once they change the rules, we also have to change our rules. The UK's regulatory overhaul will try to free up insurance firms to invest more in the UK, attract more tech startups to float in London, and make it easier for firms to raise capital. So let's break this down. Free up insurance firms to invest more in the UK. So what they're saying to insurance companies, you don't have to hold as much, kind of liquid cash in case, you need to bail out a company, which is bad. If insurance companies, again, don't have the money to bail out companies, what happens in that instance? Attract more tech startups. The UK has been doing quite good to attract tech startups. What happens when these tech startups need staff from the EU? What will they do then? And more tech startups to float in London, making it easier for them to raise capital. So they want to allow it easier to go on, the London Stock Exchange, when there's a reason why I think these, we have stringent rules to stop small companies or, minor companies going on the stock exchange. I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing, so long as, the money being lent to these companies isn't done so for, stupid reasons, like bad bets, high interest rates for risky dealings, essentially. John Williams, partner at Womblebond Dickinson, which is a hilarious name, said many see this departure from EU regulation as a positive step towards taking back control of the UK's regulatory regime, which is fine, but you cut yourself off from certain markets there, because New York has equivalency with the EU. Maybe, I don't know what the specifics are between New York and London, but maybe New York saying, you're moving a bit weird here, mate. Well, they wouldn't really say it like that, but, maybe we don't want to give you equivalency anymore. And that would make things worse for, UK-based traders. Seizing new opportunities and enabling the domestic regulators to meet their regulatory objectives on their own terms, which is great. I'm my own master now, Metal Gear Rising Revengeance and all that stuff. But the simple fact is, the more we deregulate, the more we take ourselves from the big trading hubs of the world, really. However, there are also concerns that such an overhaul may bring pressure to lower standards and move towards a more light touch form of regulation. And when does deregulation in the financial sector ever end well? Because we've had big financial crashes over the last couple of decades, and it does not end well for middle class and working class people. It ends very badly for us. So although the FCA and PRA remain firmly of the view that long-term growth and competitiveness is not achieved by having low standards, which, if that's the case, it kind of goes against what the government's trying to do with deregulations. I get, if you want to trim around the edges of certain things and make bits of legislation easier to deal with, then fine. But this, idea of mass deregulation doesn't make sense in terms of, what this minister is saying, and also what the regulatory bodies are saying. There's a couple other ones I wanted to talk about, which is this from John Glenn, the minister, talking about how he's going to reform Solvency II. He says the government has been clear about its vision for turning the UK into the most open and dynamic financial services sector on the planet. The problem is We've cut ourselves from the EU, which is a massive financial power in itself. There's a lot of traders there. We understand the crucial contribution the sector already makes to this country. Surely you would have got them something when we did the EU trade deals then, rather than getting them nothing. Apart from, memorandums. We have memorandums. Post-Brexit, that it fulfills its huge potential, which again, you've cut yourself off from your biggest market, pal. A big part of that will be about unleashing our world-class insurance industry, where again they're looking to deregulate the insurance industry so they have more liquid capital to invest into whatever projects they want. Until now, the industry has been governed by Solvency II, an EU regulatory framework designed together by member states to suit their collective needs. I wonder, were we one of the major players in setting up Solvency II? Most likely, yes. He says, now we're outside the EU. Well done, genius. The government is determined to fix that. We have a genuine opportunity to maintain and grow an innovative and vibrant insurance sector in a balanced way, one which protects policyholders, ensures the safety and soundness of firms, and make it easier for insurance firms to use long-term capital to unlock growth. And, if we look at this, right, one, how do you simultaneously protect policyholders, ensure the safety and soundness of firms, but also free them up to invest more money, because they're going to need that money if any of these deals go wrong. So it doesn't make sense. This paragraph's contradictory. Well, not this paragraph, these sentences in orange are contradictory. That last point is crucial. We think there's billions of pounds available to insurance companies to invest in growth, supporting infrastructure like wind farms and social housing, which social housing the government should be investing in, not private companies. Social housing should not be for profit. Even wind farms as well. Unlocking that investment capital would be transformative up and down the country, boosting the economy post-COVID, levelling up the regions and accelerating the path to net zero, which is all noble goals, but it just doesn't make sense that it's the insurance company that should be doing this. The insurance companies that should be doing this. It should be the government. They talk a bit more about Solvency II, but there's only one further point I want to talk about, which is speaking with to the Association of Financial Markets, that guy again, John Glenn, said the post-Brexit changes will remove unnecessary duplication and red tape for firms who want to raise capital on wholesale financial markets. Now, I wasn't 100% sure what this meant, will remove unnecessary duplication. So is it the case that they would have to, say if a firm in the UK wants to raise capital in, say, Germany, would they have to go through two different regulatory hoops to get that money? Because if it was the case, that doesn't really make sense. So yeah, again, I'll go to the audience on this one in orange if you're still listening, but the simple fact is they are looking at deregulation around solvency, and the question I want to leave the audience is, what happens when these insurance companies don't have the money in terms of liquid assets to bail out these other companies that are relying on them once deals go bad? That's the kind of key question I'm asking the audience. Along with are you surprised that it's going to be a slower process rather than a big bang? Because surely they want something to show that the City of London is moving in the right direction in order to keep as many kind of companies and subsidiaries as possible. What are your thoughts, the audience on this one? Sorry I'm late on this article. I know it's from the start of the month and we're heading into the end. Apologies for that, but things happen. But anyways, look, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one.